Welcome into the Friday edition of the Longhorn Livestream. My name is Jerry Hamilton, joined by CJ Vogel, top right, Rod Babers, bottom right. One guy could cover, one guy can't. Actually, two guys can't. Hey, I got my chest. We're ready to roll Friday. 32 days away from I'm banging the drum. Most anticipated spring football for Texas since 2004. Rod Babers, you haven't heard me get on this train, this hype train yet.
Since
2004, the move to the SEC, Quinn Ewers return, more of Arch Manning this spring, 17 early enrollees in a third straight top 5, top 6 class. Isaiah Bond, Nyblack, all these Alabama guys that said, I've had enough. They came on over too. And a team that's hungry. I want to get your thoughts, Rod and CJ, the term obsessed. It's on the shirts right now in spring football, right? Obsessed. That's what Sark is hitting on these guys with right now. And that obsessed is we got close. We almost climbed the mountaintop last year. We didn't quite get there. Oh, and you Alabama guys that came over, yeah, y'all too. We all lost at the same time last year. And damn it, we want to get to the mountaintop this year. So the word's obsessed. You got to be obsessed with the process, right? Rod, your thoughts 32 days out from spring practice?
I like the theme, right? Because Sark said he called it borderline obsessed with winning a national title. And if he can get one, he wants to get two. I love it because it talks about it. Basically, to me, it implies that everybody's on that team, everybody involved with this program is willing to sacrifice. Obsession is ultimately about what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to sacrifice for that obsession. All right, what you're willing to change and transform and transmogrify for that obsession, whether that be your body, whether that be your mind, your spirit, everything else takes a backseat to your obsession. And that's why ultimately, if you are obsessed with the right types of things, all right, you can better yourself and you can improve your quality of life and your standings. So I know a lot of guys who have been obsessed. I just talked to my boy Shano. He was obsessed with winning a Super Bowl. He still ain't got one. Now, obsession don't guarantee you success.
That's right.
Right. But obsession can get you close, ever so close to your goal. So it may not guarantee them, but I like the attitude. I like the theme. I've been obsessed with this game for a while. I was obsessed with making it to the NFL and made it. I think if you're going to accomplish your dreams, obsession has got to be a part of it. A healthy obsession, but it has to consume you. Obsession consumes you. And I think that's what Sark's talking about, that now his focus on winning a national title for this program, it has consumed him, every fiber of his being. And he wants everybody within that program, coaches, players, training staff, also to feel that similar obsession. If they all do, they're all on the same page, I think they're going to come pretty close to getting that championship.
Speaking of obsessed, CJ Vogel was, and he got out some team notes this morning. CJ, you're obsessed. Team notes. What did you post on TexasFootball.com and you can talk about today?
Yeah, Rod mentioned being hungry for wins. It looks like a lot of these early enrollees are hungry for other reasons. There have been a lot of weight fluctuation so far on the good side. Yeah, absolutely. But we've obviously talked about Colin Simmons and the 20 or so pounds that he's gained since arriving at the turn of the semester. He's looking very impressive physically. We obviously saw the photos of him put on Twitter over the past week. Another name I wanted to mention was Freddie Dubose, the wide receiver from Smithson Valley. He's up to about 186, 188 pounds right now. Another big weight gainer from an early enrollee status. Trey Owens on the other side came in around 238, 240 pounds. Right now, the hope is to get him down below 230 by the time that that spring ball starts. And then Daniel Cruz and Brandon Baker are two guys that they're trying to add a lot of weight to right now. Both of them have tremendous mindsets and approaches to off-season workouts and the winter conditioning right now. Daniel Cruz especially has been a monster in the weight room, I've been told. So it's sounding very positive early on for a number of Longhorns. And again, one name that I forgot to mention that I'm looking at right now, Jarrett Gibson, the running back out of IMG Academy.
Rod, did you see the picture of him on Instagram?
I did see it. Yeah, man. Yeah, he don't look like a freshman to me.
No, definitely not. You see him in person, and it just wows you. that he has not yet been in a college weight room yet. Now that he is, you're starting to see some real changes. And I mean, it was already impressive now. By the time you see him for spring football practice, those photos that you see first off, we're going to be sitting back like, whoa, how is this kid 2 months into his college career? Mighty impressive. Great start for a number of guys on the offensive side of the ball from early enrollee class.
Longhorn Livestream is presented by Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. By the way, guys, check out My Perfect Franchise and everything Andy Ludicky does there at myperfectfranchise.net. Are you looking to leave the corporate rat race? Give Andy a call, 404-973-9901. Man, we got a lot to talk about today. I don't think I've been on a live stream with the three of us in a while.
No.
I know y'all have talked about the Super Bowl and whatnot. We won't rehash that, Rod. If somebody has some questions about it, they can ask. But, I want to ask this because, again, we're a month out from spring ball, and I think people are jacked up, right? It just feels like it. People I talk to, I could be in a high school coach's office, and I might be getting more questions than I was in previous years, right? So, Rod, what are you defensively? Give me a couple of things, maybe a couple of players you're really looking forward to hearing about, seeing about this spring. I hate to put you on the spot with no warning, but what do you cut from a defensive perspective? The way the season ended, the pieces that are added, kind of where's some of your attention going to be this spring?
Oh, wow. That is good. I think, honestly, it's a number of different spots. First of all, the guys that returned, the guys who had a chance to get drafted this year that are coming back. I mean, you come back for a reason. You come back to increase your draft stock. You come back to be a leader on the defense, to be an impact player. I think Jahdae Barron and Alfred Collins are the two guys that jump to mind when you're talking about who's supposed to stand out on the defense, right? And Alfred Collins, I think for him, coming, obviously at that interior defensive line spot, it's going to be important. I mean, we've been waiting on a breakout campaign, a breakout season from Alfred Collins in a lot of different ways. And, he's lost his defensive line coach, but there's no doubt he got a lot of wisdom, a lot of lessons from Bo Davis. And we're expecting that to materialize on the football field. He's got to lead the way in the interior D-line. We've had breakout years in 2 straight seasons from that interior defensive line. And, a lot of people have attributed that to Bo Davis. But I think for Alfred Collins, man, this is his year to break out. This is his year to solidify himself as an NFL caliber player, a guy that really should be drafted early on in NFL rounds. He's got the makeup. He's got the physical tools. We all been waiting on him to become a war daddy, to demand a double team consistently, to be a guy that cannot be blocked with just one blocker on passing downs. And we saw that. And we know it's possible at that position because we saw it from Byron Murphy. We saw it from T'Vondre Sweat. So I'm really looking forward to see what Alfred Collins is going to bring to the table. This is the year for him. Jahdae Barron, like I said, another guy that came back to school to increase his draft stock. Well, if you're coming back to school to increase your draft stock, I expect you to make a lot of plays in that secondary. I expect for him to be a perennial playmaker. Now, I think he was a guy that made a lot of splash plays a couple of years ago. This past season, I don't think he made as many of those splash plays. I think there were some times where teams were able to make some plays against Jahdae Barron. I expect Jahdae Barron to come back and solidify himself as a guy that can lock down at the nickel spot, but also a guy that can be an impact player in a lot of different ways and to be a leader, right? That's his secondary. I remember when I was playing on the 4 days, and I look forward to it being my secondary. I set the standard. I can hold my peers accountable. I figured Jahdae Barron's in that role right now, and talk about bringing a guy like Andrew Makuba with him, who also is a Central Texas product. I mean, no guy should have a lot of pride in that secondary being their secondary this year, and they also should take a lot of pride in the secondary being a strength this year, not a liability. And since Jahdae Barron's been a part of that, secondary, I don't know if I've been able to call that secondary strength. That is something I'm looking forward to this year. That secondary, if they progress and we see those corners get better, Terrence Brooks, Malik Hummett, with the additions they made, Derek Williams is going to get better. He was already probably your best coverage safety last year. That secondary should be a strength this season. And I'm looking, if it's not, I'm going to be very disappointed.
That led me into my next question. And CJ, I want you to think about this. Kim next, 117 asks, over under 2.5 is the number for first round draft picks in 2024 NFL draft. I'm also going to spin that to 2025. While you think about that, Rod, what I wanted to ask you though is I was going to go specifically at the safety position because I think Texas has upgraded athleticism and depth at the safety position. But talk about Derek Williams was not an early enrollee last year. Okay, you're the only guy that can speak to this from being in a DB room, watching guys develop on a practice field, right? Friends, teammates, whatnot. How big do you think Derek Williams' jump can be in year 2 with this being his first spring? And how much is that going to help Phil Simi and Jordan Johnson-Rebel having this spring practice versus not? The difference between what Derek Williams did, because New Iberia, Westgate did not have early high school graduation, which they now do, by the way, because that hurt Derek Williams. So Derek Williams in year 2, now having a spring practice, and then the guys that have this spring practice as freshmen.
Yeah, I mean, just reps, right? And first of all, the young guys, they need to know the system, get acclimated to it. I think for Derek Williams, you're going to see exponential improvement because he didn't come in early. So a lot of the season, he was spent, learning the system, acclimating to the system and trying to let the system become second nature to him, something he didn't have to think about from down to down, something that he was just comfortable making the checks, making the adjustments. And I'm sure there were times last year where he was out of position, times last year where he had to think the game through a little bit, times that last year that it wasn't second nature to him. I think this year you'll see him move at a different speed, not only because he's got natural foot speed, but that foot speed, that coverage ability, I think it all actually shines through now because he actually knows where he's supposed to be. The alignment, the assignment, those are not things that a young player has to worry about anymore. And that's also why as you get older, you become a guy that, as your football IQ increases, it may feel like you're just a faster overall player. Even look on film like you're a faster overall player just because you're in the right place to be. You know different angles to the football. You know about where you're supposed to be, your role, obligations within the defense. So I think the fact that he doesn't have to learn on the job in the spring is the guy that's going to be just cultivating his craft. I expect Derek Williams to really elevate and separate this spring, no doubt about it. And for those younger guys, having a player like a Derek Williams, and I'll throw even older safeties in there, right? You got a Michael Taft in that secondary now. It's an older guy who's been there and done that. Makuba doesn't know this system, but Makuba is a veteran who's played a lot of football at the highest levels of competition. So I don't expect it to take him very long to learn the system. And when you have veterans in front of you that know the system as a young player, you benefit tremendously because essentially you just got a tutor. You got an in-house tutor there just breaking it down for you. Any questions you have about the system, how it works, any loopholes and cheat codes you can learn, those guys will break it down to the terminology that may seem a little bit, foreign to you. Those guys will break it down to you in layman's terms. So those younger guys, they get the benefit of guys like Derek Williams and Taft Daddy having experience in the system because essentially they'll work as tutors, teaching those guys exactly where they need to be, their alignment, their assignment. So ultimately, you got a think tank working in that DB room with all the vets now. So the young guys, I expect them to have an accelerated pace of development just because they have so many guys in front of them now that know the system. And Sark talks about that too, right? That's why he likes continuity with his coaching staff. Same terminology, the same coaching style, coaching preference, same system that accelerates everybody's development when you don't have to start from scratch and learn the system anew.
All right, CJ, you do a lot of stuff with the draft for On Texas Football, on the TexasFootball.com. Rod, your opinion too? I'll weigh in with something. Over under, Ekim asks, over under 2.5 first-round picks in 24. I'm taking the under, but what about also in 25?
I'll take the under this year, and I'll take the over next year.
Same.
And
so we're thinking Byron Murphy and maybe a receiver.
One of the two. It's really going to be a preference of – I think Kansas City goes wide receiver at 32. I think they have to. This is a spot that was a glaring issue on the run to the Super Bowl. And like Rod has said over the past couple of days on the Longhorn Livestream on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, the Kansas City Chiefs are in a spot of luxury right now with their first-round draft pick. They just won a Super Bowl. They don't lose a whole lot. They can use that first pick to shore up what is, a potential weakness in their team, and that is at the pass-catching spot. So I think that they will go wide receiver. It really is a fit for them where they see the best potential kind of wide receiver in my eyes, whether it be a big body wide receiver like A.D. Mitchell. We know that they like kind of those shorter, quicker, faster wide receivers like McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill. Do they go with Xavier Worthy there as well? I think he'll be that second guy with Byron Murphy. So I'm going to take the under here. But, Jerry, to your point, to your question, I mean, that 25 roster or NFL kind of outlook, it's exciting because Quinn Ewers is going to be in the mix. We know that Kelvin Banks is going to be a first-round guy. And then Isaiah Bond, if he has a big year as we're all expecting, and he picked Texas to go play with a high-profile quarterback that can throw the ball around the yard a little bit so he could boost his draft selection. That was the reason why he even went on record right after he committed to Texas. I went to Texas because I wanted to be a high draft pick, and I know that Quinn Ewers is going to be that guy that can help me elevate my stock. I'm looking at him as that third option. It'll be interesting to see if anybody else plays their way into the conversation. Right now, I see the three of them as being first-round picks in 25.
I like that.
Hey, Rod, I got to ask you one question about the Super Bowl, man. But we got some great questions. Shake and bake. We're going to get to your question. We got a super chat. At the Super Bowl, man, is Greenlaw's injury the worst luck timing injury you've ever seen in football? I have never seen a guy tear his Achilles running onto the field.
Yep. Yeah.
In the biggest game the guy will ever play.
Yeah.
And how that affected San Francisco's defense.
Oh, it was huge. When I came on hook 'em up with Ian Rod B the next morning, I hadn't slept at all. First thing I said was people have no idea how big the Dre Greenlaw injury was. When I was watching just from the stands, it was as if somebody died on that sideline. San Fran, you should have saw the reaction just from the players when he went down. He'd already made a few plays in the game. He had already made a lot of big plays in the game. And what people don't realize about Greenlaw's their emotional leader. He's their emotional mascot. He's the guy that brings the emotional intensity. Go watch the game. He almost got a personal foul in the Super Bowl. We tackled, I forget who it was. I think it was Jared McKinnon early on. And then he pounded his head like he was King Kong. Because he was just so intense. Even Patrick Mahomes remarked on NFL Films, we got to match their intensity after watching Dre Greenlaw. He's the guy that almost got in a fight with the Philadelphia security guard. That was him swinging. He's just emotional like that. And certain guys, they really do bring that type of energy to the defense. That is Dre Greenlaw. Aside from the fact they put Fred Warner on Travis Kelce a lot in that game. Strategically, he was the point man on Travis Kelce early and later on in that game. You remember him actually breaking up like a fade route to Travis Kelce later. That was part of the strategic game plan. What that meant was Dre Greenlaw was the one that was actually policing the middle of that defense. Soon as he went down, guys, Kansas City went right to him. Now, that's football 101. You're going to go to the backup if somebody gets them getting an injury to see if the level of play drops off. 9 targets at Dre Greenlaw's backup, 9 receptions allowed, 134 passer rating. Guys, it was the first score on the board as soon as Dre Greenlaw went down to Kansas City, attacked that area. And then from that point on, they found their vulnerability. Everything after that unraveled. That's not necessarily San Francisco's fault. Roster construction, and you can't have all pros everywhere. That Greenlaw injury was huge. Huge. And you're right about the timing, man. The fact that it was a non-contact injury in between plays, just trying to hustle on the football field.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
It was even more deflating, Jerry. They made it even more deflating. That felt like the football gods were against you.
Yes, exactly. Hey, by the way, look at Rod taking me to Wikipedia. Fred Warner, Mission Hills High School in San Marcos.
Hey!
Olavi. And you know why that's meaningful, Rod? Texas just offered Troy Hun, the 2026 quarterback at Mission Hills, who, man, based on the tape I've seen, that dude's got a chance to be in the Wikipedia page one day if he keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so San Marcos of Mission Hills, maybe adding a third to the Wikipedia. That's their 2 top football players ever from Mission Hills. All right, we had a question at 122 from Shake and Bake, which I think everybody will have a good opinion on this. Rod, the great thing about having Rod as part of OTF, and CJ will get to go through this next year with him, we got Rod on the huddle watching all the guys too. So he's watching all these guys that signed with Texas. So, CJ, I'll start with you. Which incoming freshmen have a real legit shot at playing time? Who you got?
There are 3 that really stand out to me. It's Xavier Filsaime in the safety room, Ryan Wingo at wide receiver, and obviously Colin Simmons, especially with the way that he's already developed and progressed his body since arriving on campus. 3 guys that I would expect to see a lot on the field. Ryan Wingo is kind of a bit of a question mark. Obviously, Sarkisian likes to keep his wide receiving circle small. The two other guys, they do rotate very often at defensive end and back deep at safety. Wingo, they don't necessarily move a whole lot of pieces around at the wide receiver spot, but I have a hard time believing a guy that has impressed so early and often in winter conditioning at 6'2" and can move as well as he will be kept off of the field. I think this spring is going to be big to get him into that top 3, 4, 5 rotation and really see what he brings to the table as kind of, the only guy that has a big, large frame at the wide receiver position that can move that well. He's going to find a way on the field, no doubt.
I agree with that.
What you got, Rod?
Yeah, I like the Ryan Wingo one, man. That's money. The Ryan Wingo one, because he's just got next level athletic traits. You just can't teach him that speed, the burst. And, Sark doesn't necessarily expand his rotation of wide receivers, but I do think he wants a clear path for his high school recruits at the receiver position. He wants them to see, basically be able to visualize themselves in that role. And I think he wants to continue that. Jonte Cook will be the next, but I think Ryan Wingo is going to follow in that as well. It's going to help him recruit other big-time wide receivers from the high school level. We know they can get him from the transfer portal because that's just the deepest position in football at any level. But I think he wants to keep those young wide receivers coming out of high school. He wants to keep those guys motivated, incentivized, and Ryan Wingo, he just has a skill set that's hard to deny on the football field. Honestly, Jerry, I'll go back to something you brought up that I remember a few months ago about Jared Gibson and short yardage. Texas hopefully they don't have to worry about short yardage. It's not an issue. But I do remember you saying that we need to watch out for this young man. He's got a body that may end up translating to early short yardage production. That's something Texas struggled with a little bit last year. And maybe a Cedric Baxter can fill that role this year. Maybe the offensive line makes that, a moot topic. But that's a guy that you may see the field early. I mean, seeing that picture of him, that's a mature body. And that's a guy that before he's even gotten to a weight room at the college level, I could see him situationally throwing him out there if he indeed has that type of kind of bowling ball mentality as a runner and a guy that can really penetrate in short yardage. I could see that too.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Obviously, Colin Simmons at the edge. I think Alex January is going to have to play, guys. I think barring a experienced adult in the room at defensive line in the portal this spring, which could happen. I expect it to happen. I still think they're going to rotate 6 D linemen, right? So there's going to be a competition who can play over the ball. I think I could see Alex January playing some later as the season moves along there. David Williams brought up one for me as Michael Kern at punter. If Texas does not get a punter in the portal, then suddenly Michael Kern comes in May or late May, early June, and he's competing with Ian Ratliff, who is a quality walk-on punter from Atascocita High. I watched him in high school. And Michael Kern will be the favorite to be the starting punter on a top 5 team ranked in college football ahead of the season. I think we're going to get a sleeper in this group. I think Nyblack, Gunnar Helm at tight end. You wonder about a guy like Jordan Washington a little bit. Is his body going to blow up quick? And he came from a program where they asked him to block, to be not just a number, to actually be an effective blocker in the run game. He has downfield ability in the pass game. You kind of wonder if a Jordan Washington, if he just exceeds expectations, Mike could find his way onto the field some. Probably not enough plays, but just an interesting guy to watch. So Raymond Vela, how is Sadir Mitchell coming along? I think the spring is going to be huge for him, guys. I think this is maybe my number one guy outside of Colin Simmons and Trey Moore I'm watching this spring. I think the pass rush is going to be better with Colin Simmons and Trey Moore and guys being older, Ethan Burke in year 3, Anthony Hill year 2, some of the young linebackers. Sadir Mitchell's got it. Come on. And I'm not saying he has to look like an NFL player next year, but he needs to start to look like the guy that Kirby Smart and Steve Sarkisian and Will Muschamp and Bo Davis battle on until signing day. He needs to start looking like that with Texas moving into the SEC. They need 6'5", 340, and pretty athletic first and second step over the football for enough plays to make a difference next year. He's my guy this spring. Him and Jere Bledsoe are the 2 guys that I think have the most in front of them, the longest runway, that they are just now getting their engine revved. They need to take some steps this spring, in my opinion.
I'm right there with you. That's kind of my biggest question mark with the Texas team on paper, at least this far out, is will they be able to stop the run? Obviously, the 3 departures from that defensive line room were key in being kind of the key to the ignition of the Texas defense, stopping the run and really forming the identity of what was a very good defense from a year ago. We know that defensive line interiorly is going to be a bit of a question mark to see how the dominoes fall and who's going to be the guys that step up. You expect guys like Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, obviously Savea out of Arizona to kind of be the guys that take over I'd say the bulk of those snaps in there. But who's going to be those guys that you see coming in rotationally and behind them as well? Because we know Anthony Hill is an all-world athlete at linebacker. Will he be able to continue his development in terms of the run game? That's my biggest question mark of his game. And right now, with no more Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy to kind of clog those run holes, it's going to be a lot more on him to figure out where plays are going, the diagnosis early of running plays, and just making sure that he's not overrunning or, I guess, undercutting where, plays are designed to hit. So that's going to be my biggest question mark heading into the spring right now.
All right. We have a question here. It's like super chat. Edmund Lee, thank you very much. 36K, 9K and growing. Going to hit 37,000 this weekend. Thank you to everybody. Keep passing along the word to Texas fans or your Aggie fans if they want to hear about Texas, or your Sooner fans, or bring in those SEC guys too. Rod's ready to get after some of those SEC guys this year.
Let's do it.
I'm just going to pick on Mississippi State. We're going big this year. Terry, CJ, Rod, you guys make OTF the best. Only to improve.
Thank you, Evan.
Have Bobby do a Joy Lover Manscaped ad. Look, and I'm going to make Bobby a handshake to this one and bet on this. If Texas beats Georgia in Austin, who Georgia will probably be number 1 in the country, Bobby has to do all those reads for a week.
He'd gladly do it.
Yeah, he'd do that.
Yeah. And if his wife Jenny is listening, she'll definitely make him take the bet. I guarantee you. Hey, we had a question earlier as well. So I want to go back up to this. 2 things. Jason Washington asked, with the current talent and skill on the offensive side of the ball, Rod, this is right up your Rod zone alley. What's the major key on capitalizing in the red zone?
That's big. That is big.
Yeah, you're better athletes now.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be a multifactorial thing. I don't think it's just one issue. I don't think it was just one issue that hurt them in the red zone last year and led to them being 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone. I don't think it's going to be one thing that's going to fix it. Now, it could have just been an outlier last year, and maybe we don't have to worry about that this year. It doesn't necessarily become an issue. But I guarantee it's something that Sark's looking at. And I want to say, number 1, it's on Quinn. This is about Quinn getting through progressions a little bit quicker in the red zone. Everything happens faster in the red zone. Everything's a little bit more compact. So I think for Quinn, who has at times struggled working his way through progressions without some erratic play and without footwork kind of deteriorating for him, without his mechanics being derailed a little bit, he's got to get through deeper progressions and be able to do it also with, disciplined footwork and maintaining his mechanics. And I think he'll work on all that. But that's why in the red zone, you got to get through progressions quicker. Strangely enough, since we're talking about progressions, going back to the Super Bowl, Andy Reid's, his corn dog play, right? He has a game-winning touchdown. He calls it corn dog. Corn dog essentially using targets to motion. And for those who don't know, it basically they did a return motion. That's corn dog, return motion, and then it ended up being a wide open touchdown. And we talked about this, CJ, when we did Talking Ball. Remember, Andy Reid says basically it was a one-read throw. I call them wide window, one read throws. There was no progression read there. It's just, hey, you know exactly what that guy schemed open. I just need ball placement, accuracy, and the timing to be on point. If it is, it will be a touchdown. I wonder if Sark can go through more of those schemed open first read, wide window throws in the red zone for Quinn Ewers, as opposed to some of the progression reads. And because Quinn is great when he knows where the ball is going, when a guy schemed open, nobody's in the country is better at timing, better with accuracy and ball placement. And I wonder if you'll see more of those types of concepts in the red zone. Yes, also talking about return motion, getting guys the football on the move. I also think that in the red zone, first of all, the running backs, I think, will help you. A guy like CJ Baxter. I do think I think he's kind of geared and built to run in the red zone. The way that he hits the hole, his explosion, I think his ability, I think he'll help you also as a more of a red zone weapon. I think it's going to hurt you not having the tight end potentially in the red zone. Remember, that was one of their kind of go-to targets in the red zone was JT Sanders. Oftentimes they would accompany that with an RPO design going to a JT Sanders. So not having JT in the red zone, that also will affect Sark in his play calling. I think Sark's play calling, even he admitted at times, right? The play calling, at least the sequencing of the play calling at times is off in the red zone for him. How aggressive you are, that's also going to play a huge role, right? If it's 4-down territory for you, that's going to affect what you call on third and what you call on second down. So it wasn't just one thing that led to Texas being mediocre and pedestrian in the red zone. I don't think it's just one thing that's going to fix it. Hopefully it was just an outlier. And it's not something Texas has to worry about from season to season. It's not something that is, I think, a systemic issue with a Sark offense. Because I don't think it was in year one, and I don't think it was a huge issue in year two. But in case it comes up again, Sark needs to have solutions ready to go.
And I'll say this about quarterbacks. Your foot quickness matters in the red zone. It doesn't matter what your eyes see if your feet can't get to it, right? And those feet have to move quick in the red zone. Those windows close quickly. Sarah McCoy, a question. We got to address it because I don't think anybody will ask it. Okay, again, I'd be wrong. Who wins the UT-OU less Big 12 in football season? Does anyone care? I care for this question only. And I'll say this, it would have been Arizona if the coaching staff didn't change. They were going to come and roll people up next year, in my opinion, in the Big 12. Because they had quarterback. McMillan would have been the best receiver in the league. That defense had a lot of that front and guys that mattered back. I thought they had a strong staff. The work they did there in 2 years at Arizona was really impressive. And I thought Arizona was going to hit the Big 12 at the right time and come in and kind of wipe everybody out year one. Now with the staff change, if you guys leave them, we'll see what happens. But I don't know if anybody cares. I'm sure we'll have some opinions. But who you got next year in the Big 12? Utah from Ryan Nelson. Utah's a good pick.
Utah's a good pick.
Okay, Kansas State's a good pick if the young quarterback becomes a thrower of the passer of the football. He's a thrower now. He's got to become a passer.
I feel like Utah was going to be my pick. Obviously, Cameron Rising returning for, I think, year 7 is something that's too hard to ignore. Utah's a very well-coached team. That program has been consistently one of the most disciplined programs defensively that we've seen in the entire country. Adding Cameron Rising, who gives them a tremendously larger ceiling, higher ceiling than what we saw a year ago when he was out for the year, and they still won 7-8 games, I believe. They're the team to me that I think should be the favorite coming into the year. But I love Avery Johnson at Kansas State. Jerry, you mentioned his ability. I guess he needs to improve, take that next step throwing the football. I know that Texas Tech staff is still hurt over what he did to them with the 5 rushing touchdowns a year ago as a true freshman stepping in. That's something that still gives them nightmares. I've heard from within the doors of the Lubbock facility, they do not want to see Avery Johnson once again this year. To their credit, they don't get to play them until a possible Big 12 championship game. But Avery Johnson, I had a reminder in my phone that the minute that Heisman odds get put up again for the 2024 season, Avery Johnson is a guy that I will be betting on to win the Heisman. It's outlandish. It's a long shot. I understand it, but you see him play. He took over that bowl game with his legs. He was a dominant player. I'm a big fan of his, and there's a reason why he was the Gatorade Player of the Year out of Kansas his senior year.
And Sarah McCoy, no love for Dion. Rod.
I literally was just going to say, I think they're a sleeper. I was just going to say when TJ got down, I was going to say they're a sleeper. They got a quarterback who's probably going to be drafted in the first round. Anytime you got a first-round quarterback on your team, you got a shot. They overhauled the offensive line in one offseason because of NIL. So supposedly that's not going to be a huge issue. Got new coordinators in there, got new play callers in there. Hopefully it's a more quarterback-friendly system. I think as a sleeper, you got to throw Colorado in the mix. And honestly, guys, everybody sleeps on Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy's just a hell of a coach. Might be the best damn coach in the conference year after year. Just played in the Big 12 title game when nobody thought they had a shot to even make a bowl game last season. All right. Mike Gundy's a hell of a coach. He's going to be bringing back something. I'll go with 2 sleepers potentially in Oklahoma State and Colorado in the Big 12, just because they'll have high-end talent. At least Colorado will, and not a lot of teams in the Big 12 will have high-end talent at any position. They got a Travis Hunter. They got a Shadur Sanders. They got some guys that don't play on Sundays. How many Big 12 teams got guys that don't play on Sundays? Not many.
Not many. Hey, Rod, I haven't had a chance to ask you about this. 11 Longhorns invited to the NFL Combine. Most. Big. That's the most, right?
Yep.
I'm going to throw another stat at you that was wild to me. You know how many DBs from the SEC got invited to the Combine? Only 321 players total invited to the Combine. Take a wild guess how many DBs from the SEC, counting Texas and OU, there were. It's a crazy.
I'm on
the spot because if you get close to it, it's amazing. Because CJ, would you have ever guessed that number?
No, not at all.
So all plus 12. Let's go with. I'll go with 18.
23.
That's pretty damn good.
23 defensive backs out of the conference. That was the most at any position of any conference, obviously. That's a massive number when we consider the SEC is the line of scrimmage lead. And it was 15 D linemen, 15 O linemen, 14, 15, 102. But then 23 DBs. So speed at wide receiver. You think that matters in the SEC?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So, Rod, your thoughts. You've been through this draft process. The 11 guys, what does he think that means for Sark and this Texas program to have 11 guys invited to the Combine?
Well, it's going to make – I just think it'll make Sark's job easier, right? Sark, he's shattering that negative, recruiting pitch against Texas, which was, Texas can't help you accomplish your NFL dreams, right? He's proven that he can put the team back in championship contention. That's what they did last season, competing for a championship, won the Big 12 championship. So you can no longer say, hey, man, if you go to Texas, you're not going to play for championships or compete for them. Sark's already proven he can do that. The next stage for Sark is to prove I can help you accomplish your NFL dreams, all right? Because every player, 100% of the teenagers being recruited as high school prospects, they all want to go to the league. They got that in common with the guys that were being recruited in 1975 to the guys that were being recruited in my time, the guys that's going to be recruited in 2035. They all want to go to the NFL. They all want to accomplish that dream. Yep. You have to make sure that you can put them in a position, all right, to help assist them with that goal. And now Texas is I think, shifting that narrative a little bit. You have Isaiah Bunn coming to Texas and stating, I came to Texas because I want to increase my draft stock. Guys were leaving Texas to increase their draft stock a couple of years ago. Now you got guys coming in transfer portal to increase their draft stock coming to Texas. And I think having the 11 guys go to the Combine, that's part of the process, right? Having guys get drafted, hopefully it's a lot. It'll be like close to 8. Some guys that end up getting drafted for Texas. That'll ultimately shatter the narrative once and for all, that negative recruiting pitch against Texas that they can't help you get to the league and they don't compete for championships there. So I just think Sark ultimately, he's been recruiting even with that negative narrative out there. And by the way, some of it was true. All right. It wasn't all false. It wasn't all inaccurate. Some of it was true a couple of years ago that Texas couldn't help you get to the league. They sent 2 guys to the Combine and nobody getting drafted. Texas was 5-7 a couple of years ago. So that some of that narrative out there actually was true. But I think now Sark is starting to shatter it once and for all. And now when he goes back onto the recruiting trail, when he's got to make the sales pitch about Texas, it's an easier pitch. Now look. I got the examples right before you. Look, 11 guys sent to the Combine. Go look, we played for a college football championship. Oh, yeah, we won the Big 12 championship. Oh, yeah, we got 8 guys drafted. You know what I mean? Like, it's at this point, the sales pitch is so much easier for Sark than it used to be. And I think that actually is going to be a huge benefit for Texas when that everybody on the recruiting trail can now point to the NFL draft and go, I know you want to go to the NFL. We got guys on our staff who know how it looks. They've coached in the NFL or they played in the NFL. And we got guys who have created a pipeline at the linebacker position, at the running back position, at interior D-line. We got guys getting drafted year after year at those positions. That's ultimately what you want to – I think that's the next step for Sarks, to create the pipeline, right? Where it's like, year after year, if you win the starting job at Texas, it's a good chance you're going to end up getting drafted. Because to win that job, you got to beat out a whole lot of NFL caliber talent to do it. And I think that's the next step is the pipeline developing. But I think at certain positions, like I said, running back, you're already there. Linebacker, you're starting to get there too. Interior D line, I mean, you're going back-to-back years with multiple guys getting drafted. That's the pipeline. I was at DBU when we had the pipeline, right? It was Quentin Jammer, and then myself, and then Nasty Nate, and then Huff Daddy, and Aaron Ross, year after year. So I think that's the next step. But to me, it's just, and Sark deserves it, by the way, because he's worked hard to achieve it. I think the sales pitch now is just so much easier than it was when Sark and company first got here. I just think it's going to get even better.
Hey, a couple things, CJ. It's not that long ago, Ryan Nelson brought up Garrett Wilson in 2019. They don't develop receivers at Texas, right?
Exactly.
Right? Y'all's backyard there. Lake Travis with the throwdown ultimately on Tom Herman. Hey, question here. Spencer Hogan, good question. I mean, I think I know the answer. Who benches more at the combine, Sweat or Murphy? CJ? I think this is a pretty easy answer, but go ahead.
I'm going Byron Murphy.
Shorter arms.
Yep. He just has that frame that will allow you to bench a little bit easier. We've talked about how strong he is, kind of that strength of his in his game, no pun intended, has been the combination of the speed and quickness plus how strong he is physically. And I think he's really going to sit under that bench and put 225 up. Can I guess like 28, 29 times? Like,
hey, so somebody, you should tweet at him and say, bet you won't do 27 reps, and he'll come back and subtweet you with 345, and he'll give the exact time he's going to be on the bench press, like he was doing.
Yep.
Tweet at him and get him motivated, and we'll put an over/under on OTF on how many he gets.
I like that.
Yes. Is T'Vondre Sweat a first-round pick? He does not seem to get much love from the draft mockers. I'm going to answer first. I don't think he is. I think he's seen as a first, second down player. And I think that's what's going to push him down a little bit. I see late second, third for him, unless drop some weight, does test a little better than people think at the combine. And we're not talking 40, or we're talking the other testing, the agility drills, your 5-10 5s and those things. Rod, CJ, I don't see him in the first round because he's not a pass rusher. It's different. And he's not Casey Hampton. Okay, he's a very good player, and I know he out-awarded Casey Hampton, but he's still not Casey Hampton.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Back into the second round. Yeah, back in second round, early third. That's kind of where I see it. I think Rod and I have talked about this in the past, but I think that's where I'm leaning at the moment. I think you just a day two guy for sure in my eyes.
I got him as a second round pick. I think he'll go a little earlier in the second round. I know some people think he's going to drop. It depends on the weight, right? He hasn't weighed in yet. He knows that scouts, they may have that as a negative data point in his evaluation. I'm not sure exactly where they want to see him weight rise. He plays at 360 plus. I think he's comfortable there too. That's why at the Senior Bowl, he wanted to be at playing weight and performance weight for the combine are different things. So they probably want to see him close to 350. So maybe even people want to see him below 350. I think ultimately for T'Vondre Sweat, he's going to end up, in my opinion, drafted in the second round. And I think what helps him is the way the NFL is going now. Not necessarily, his measurables and, running a great time and slimming down. I think ultimately the NFL wants to play with lighter boxes now. That's pretty obvious. You have more teams trying to play with those two deep safeties. You're going to play with two deep safeties. They want to devote numbers to defend the pass, but they want to defend the run with one-on-one matchups. And guys like T'Vondre Sweat in the NFL, they're valuable, even as the first or the second down guys, when you want to play with a lighter box, because either with his sheer size and just his girth, he can clog up multiple holes with his size, or he can demand a double team from blockers, and you can win the numbers advantage. That way you can flip the numbers advantage back in your favor. It takes two to block your one. So I think ultimately his value, you're going to look at the top 16 highest paid defensive players in the NFL last season. Guys, 8 of them, half of them are interior defensive linemen. all because the NFL knows that you have to have these guys if you want to play with a lighter box. And more of the NFL, like I said, wants to defend the pass with numbers and defend the run with those one-on-one matchups with forced run defenders. And he is a forced run defender on first down. Hell, the Cowboys, they needed one. That's why they drafted Mozzie Smith and traded for Jonathan Hankins 2 years prior to that, because they need a forced run defender. And when Leighton Vander Esch went down, what happened to the Cowboys? You ran it right down their damn throat. Power, 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 power. It happens to every defense because all the defenses now are modernized with hybrids to be able to defend the spread concepts and defend the Shanahan zone blocking running scheme from sideline to sideline. And that's all great when you design your defenses to defend that with speed and sub packages. But what happens when a team just wants to run old school power on you? You need T'Vondre Sweats of the world. You're going to need that guy who's a thumper in the middle. So what he's got to do is prove, like I said, draft-wise, he'll get drafted in the second round, whatever. Once he gets to the NFL, prove that not only you can be a force run defender on first and second down, but when it is a money down, when it is a predictable passing down, show everybody like you did just this year in college when you won the major awards, right? When you proved the Allen Trophy winner, that you can rush the passer as well. I mean, the truth is if you go look at T'Vondre Sweat, I mean, he was one of the leaders in pass rush win rate last season. He was one of the leaders in pressuring the opposing quarterback last season. He's got to prove that he can do that, have it be a top 10 pass rusher, even from the interior D line. He do that, and I guarantee he's going to be one of those interior defensive linemen that's among the highest paid defensive players in the league. That's why they're playing those big boys so much, even though they're not a premium position. But if you're a defensive coordinator who knows what the hell you're doing in the league, you know you need one badly.
That whole 3 minutes was for Sadir Mitchell, if you're watching. All right, King Me at 151, because CJ, I want you to address this because you got something coming up on OTF. Are y'all going to play the new college football game this summer, and why isn't it called NCAA Football 2024? That's all licensing agreement, as somebody said. But tell everybody what you got coming on this because it's very cool.
Man, I'm really excited. So right after the Longhorn Livestream today on Friday, I'm going to be filming a video with Big Game Bengal from the YouTube universe, one of the largest creators of the video game world.
530,000 subscribers. Is that what he's at now?
I mean, north of 600 is what I know. He's big time. One of the largest creators in the YouTube universe. I'm very excited. I got to meet him at the Sugar Bowl, actually, down in New Orleans. We had a great chat, obviously. When the release of this game was announced and we got teased a little bit with the trailer yesterday, I got excited, obviously. This was a game that I grew up on. I spent months of my life playing in middle school and high school. So I'm very excited. I got the date on my calendar ready to rock and roll. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. First off, the return of the game, our expectations there, but also how we expect to see some of these Texas Longhorns on this roster, kind of see how they rate.
Awesome.
Where to see them in the ratings, what we think Quinn Ewers' accuracy will be, Isaiah Bond's speed, kind of those fun topics right there. But that'll come later today, and I'm really excited. We'll probably drop that tomorrow afternoon at some point. But man, it'll be a fun conversation. I hope y'all check it out.
Yeah, again, the Longhorn Livestream on Friday presented by Andy Ludicky, My Perfect Franchise. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky for being the sponsor of the Longhorn Livestream on Friday. All right, CJ, I want to hit on recruiting a little bit here. Tell people where you went this week on the road, got out a little bit, and then I'll tell people where I was, and we'll give them a brief rundown on recruiting.
Yeah, I was out at Del Valley and Austin Westlake this week. I was supposed to get out to Pflugerville Weiss earlier Thursday morning. Had to step in for coffee and football, so that'll come next week, as well as a stop at Lake Travis. But interesting prospect down at Del Valley. I wanted to talk about Coleman Patton a little bit. 2025 defensive back. He's a true safety, about 6'3", runs very well. I was able to watch him run 300 workouts during track session. A big-time prospect, I guess, is growing into a big-time prospect. Has offers from about 7 or 8 programs now. Arizona State, Nebraska, Texas Tech, all of them have entered his recruitment over the last month or so. And then I stopped by Westlake. And Westlake, again, is going to restock and reload on the defensive line in a more impressive fashion than I think I've ever seen. Everybody that they have on their incoming defensive line is 6'2" to 6'7". They have 5 guys in that range, and they do not lack football talent. That's
none of them are lacrosse players, to be clear. No Ethan Burke. These are straight football guys.
Whoa, absolutely. The number one guy to me, obviously, Connor Vasic, the younger brother of Colton, is down there. He's still recovering from a injury during the season. He'll be ready to go during spring ball. His recruitment started to pick up. Texas State and SMU have offered him this past month. And then the one that I really wanted to touch on was Maddox Flint, 2026 interior defensive lineman. Right now stands about 6'2", 270, right in that range, has plenty of room to grow. He's a dog. That guy can play some football. The coaching staff at Westlake was all over him. You know, they had great things to say. You watch him work out, which I was able to do. They were maxing in the weight room that day. I was able to stop by. Texas A&M loves him, and their coaching staff is like, yeah, it's only going to be a matter of time before coaches start rolling through again at Westlake and start offering everybody on that defensive line. And he might just be the biggest name to come out of it. Maddox Flint, a 2026 interior defensive lineman, going to be a stud.
Wow.
Yeah, I went out to Conroe High yesterday. I'm going to hit the road a little bit more next week, and then the following week I'm going to get outside the Houston area. But what CJ said, no school Friday for a lot of kids and Monday. So we got track meets going, though. So we're starting to get some track times in. But I went to see Dorian Brew at Conroe High yesterday, one of the top defensive backs in the country, probably the top defensive back on the board for Texas, quite honestly. His father, Rod, went to Klein Forest, was All-American at LSU, got 2 medals in the Olympics. His mom's in the Ohio State Track Hall of Fame. So, I mean, if you're not fast, then you were born with 3 or 4 or 5 feet, right? I mean, so how are you not fast if you're their son? Well, he's fast. He ran 10.7 last year at about 190 pounds, right? So 6'2", 197, 200 right now. Probably dropped 10 pounds in track season. But look, this is a guy that he was originally going to commit on January 24th. And if he had done that, that would have been Ohio State. But he backed off that date. Texas got him on campus on the 20th for Junior Day. Sark and Gideon helicoptered in the following week, spent some time with him and his father and mother there as well, and stepfather. So Texas very much in this game right now, but this has heavy hitters in recruiting. Corey Raymond at LSU was there. Ryan Day was there. Sarkeesian there. Tosh Lupoy for Oregon there. Lincoln Riley and DeAnton Lynn from USC came to see him.
Wow.
It doesn't get heavier hitting than that in recruiting, right? I mean, that's unless you mixed in Kirby Smart, right? That's about all you need in that recruitment now that Nick's out of the game. So one of the top defensive backs in the country. He's a guy who can play corner. He's a more defined player physically than Kobe Black, who is a smaller school multi-sport athlete. Dorian Brew goes from football to track, right? Doesn't have that basketball mix in between. But a guy that could play corner, could play nickel, could play safety. The versatility, he'll start his career. That versatility is what people love. I think he doesn't have that track frame like his dad has. He's a little bit thicker. I think this kid's going to weigh 205 to 210 in college. I think it's going to be hard to keep him under 200 pounds. This is why, CJ, we got a question. Remember the Thursday morning coffee and football? Who's a sleeper in 2025 in Texas? This is why we go on the road. Conroe has an edge kid named Jaden Ramos. He was played at 240 during the season his junior year. He's back down to 225 because he hangs on the rim in basketball for 3 months. He's 6'4.5", 10-inch hands. He got Kansas State and Pitt recently. Remember that name for the guys, the recruitniks out there that follow all these guys. Jaden Ramos may be popular here in May when all these college coaches come through Conroe High. By the way, Conroe High is 5,400 students now, guys. That's unbelievable. I know. I mean, think about that. 400 students is what they have at Conroe High. Built an unbelievable new facility there. Wow. They also have a running back that's a D1 guy. They got a few guys over there, as you should when you have 5,400 students. But I mean, if you don't, that coach has the wrong job. Get out. Get out.
Get him out of here.
Students and no players, get out. But so that's a little bit in recruiting. Also, CJ and I talked about the big visit weekends coming up in the spring. I'm adding April 6th to this as well now. There's a big 7-on-7 tournament, national tournament in Dallas that 6th, 7th weekend. So you may have some of these skill guys sprinkle in, come to Austin on April 5th. But April 6th, on Texas Football Believes, John Mills, the 4-star offensive guard out of San Francisco, St. Ignatius, he may be on campus for an unofficial visit on the 6th. Michael Fasusi and his family is expected in Austin for a day. Will it be on the 6th or will it be spring game? But I think this April 6th, you're going to start to see some guys say they're they're going to attend spring practice on the 6th because April 20th, Texas knows you can't get everybody you want at the spring game. A&M has a spring game the same day. OU, there's others around the country. It's spring game day is April 20th. So you're going to get a lot of guys, but you're not going to get all the guys there. So you got to get these guys on campus in March and in April prior to spring game. So we already have those dates of March 22nd because there's a big 7-on-7 tournament in Austin that weekend. There's Brandon Brown, Javar Thomas, Keody Armstrong, some of those guys that are expected on campus that Friday probably. Then we have April 5th weekend, April 13th, 14th weekend. We know IMG will be represented that weekend, then the spring game, April 20th. So a lot going on in recruiting as well. But again, this is Longhorn. What you got, CJ?
I was going to say there's one more guy I wanted to add to that spring visitors list. I mentioned him earlier this week, but Texas actually got active in the 2026 quarterback world as well. Extended 2 offers this week, one to the number 1 quarterback by the rating services, Jared Curtis out of Nashville. We think right now that that's kind of trending in the way of Georgia at the moment. But one to keep a very close eye on is Troy Hunt, who, Jerry, you mentioned earlier out of Mission Hills, California. I was able to talk to his quarterback coach, Danny Hernandez, one of the big quarterback gurus out of California, helped train Malik Murphy, put him on a national scale.
Friend of Sark.
Right. Did great work with Bryce Young as well. Right now, he is training some of the some of the best in the 25 and 26 classes. He's got Brady Smeagol, 5-star in the 26 class, 2026, Jaden O'Neal, Ryder Lyons, a few more. All of them have 20-plus offers at the moment. He also trains with Troy Hunt, and he told me right off the bat, he came to him very raw. He's been a very willing learner, in terms of what it takes to become a great quarterback. And Coach Hernandez basically told me straight up, I don't see there's any way that there are 3 better quarterbacks than him in the entire country.
Wow.
And
I agree.
There's a lot of praise coming out of him.
I agree on tape. And I'll add one more thing to Troy Hunt, Rod, just to put it in the memory bank for future. His mom is the basketball coach at Carlsbad High School, also big AAU program in California. Hey, man. If you got a basketball coach as a parent, you're going to have good feet, right?
Yep.
Because you've been in basketball when you were a young kid.
Yeah.
You've had to do slide drills, and you've been in that reactive quickness foot sport growing up in basketball. You're going to have quick feet. You're going to have some body quickness, and I think that is one of the things that makes Troy Hunt such a big-time prospect. We had a question here I got to get back up to. Hold on. Chris Bednarski. Yes, Derek Brew from Klein Forest. That is Dorian Brew's father. He was a Olympian in the 400 meters and at LSU. Wow. And LSU is in on that recruitment. They did visit that after Texas, January 20th, the Brews visited USC, and then they went to LSU. So they've been to both places and Texas here for junior day visits. But Corey Raymond's really, and LSU's trying to work that connection. But Derek Brew, an elite 400 meter guy. And that was at the time. I mean, track in the Houston area, man, was off the chain. Off the chain, yeah. And that's what Derek Brew was talking about. He's a track coach at Conroe High. He was talking about that yesterday. Some of the guys went against. That was a heck of a time for track in the Houston area, man. So next up, does Ohio State having 3 cornerbacks already committed in the 25 class affect Brew with the Buckeyes? I do think Ohio State slipped some. I think he still likes Ohio State. Look, I mean, he went to high school out there for a year, even though he's from Texas. And Texas' selling point is develop and be an NFL draft pick in your home state at the University of Texas. That's the selling point, which is only going to get better after the NFL draft in April, guys. But I do think that Ohio State slipped some because if he had committed January 24th, he was going to Ohio State. So clearly things have backed off a little bit Ohio State. Do I think Ohio State's totally out of the mix? I do not. I think he likes Ohio State. I think LSU's in it. I think Texas is in a pretty good position, but there's anytime you got those heavy hitters in recruiting, we're not going to count our chickens, and I guarantee you Steve Sarkisian and his staff are not, because that's a real battle in recruiting. But I do think Texas is in a pretty good spot right now, guys. So again, Friday afternoon, Longhorn Livestream, CJ Vogel, Rod Babers, and myself. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and My Perfect Franchise. Guys, I want to ask a couple other things about spring. So first, I want to get Rod's opinion on this. So, Rod, I don't think I've told you this, but we're 32 days out from spring practice, right? I anticipated spring practice at Texas since 2004. And that was because coming off the Rose Bowl win, VY was back, right? The program, you could tell, was close to getting it done. You just had a feeling as a fan, right? This year, it's the SEC move. Quinn came back off the playoff run. You're going to get to see a lot of Arch Manning at the spring game, right? There's no more competition for the number 2 job where he's putting it out there with a walk-on situation. He's going to be put out there. You're going to see more Arch, 17 early enrollees, including I think people are going to want to see Colin Simmons screaming off the edge in the spring game, right? Yep. All those guys and the portal guys. The only portal guy that's not here is Silas Bolden, who had a great interview on Texas Football, by the way, recently. But Isaiah Bond, Nye Black, Kendrick Blackshire, Makuba, Savea at D-line, obviously Matt Golden, Trey Moore. Where does it rank for you? I know I'm putting a lot on your plate there. And yes, OTF will have an event for the spring game, 1 p.m. We'll have an event. That's the time of the spring game. More to come on that. But how excited are you for the spring? Can you get there with where I'm going with this hype machine?
Yeah. No. I think you're right on track, brother. I really do. Because we've had springs with elements of that, right? We've had springs with the element of a celebrity quarterback and Chris Sims. So we've had that. I was a part of that. Everybody was really hyped to see a young Chris Sims on campus. And we were the number 1 recruiting class. Let's see that young recruiting class in the spring. So I remember that kind of stuff. You've had really high expectations for Texas before. You've had really high expectations in the spring because everybody expects Texas to be a national title contender, that upcoming year. I've been a part of some of those teams too. I'm with you though. I don't think we've had a spring where you add, the celebrity quarterback to the mix. You add going to the SEC. Transfer portal wasn't a thing because I'm too old. So that's a relatively new thing, throwing that out there. And, the anticipation. I never experienced Texas football being down as long as it was when I came to campus, right? I'm sure that it was. They had just fired Makovic and hired Mac Brown. But we just got past a 15-year stretch of Texas football that most Longhorn fans were disappointed in. And they consider that to be a mediocre, pedestrian stretch of Texas football. And now we're getting back to the point, and I do remember when Texas became the IT program again, where it feels like the University of Texas football is starting to trend toward being an IT program again in a lot of ways, whether it be transfer portal, you got your celebrity quarterbacks on campus, you're going to the SEC, NIL being the law of the land, and Texas is one of the leaders in that space. They like their head coach. That also matters for Longhorn fans. They like Sark. They like Sark's offense. Sark's offense is a sexy offense that attracts a lot of great athletes who want to play in it. So I think that's what the buzz is about. Is that now Texas is trending toward being the IT program again all across college sports. Sark had that hype video that he voiced over that we played on one of the live streams on Longhorn fans. It was really good, right? But the hype video is is essentially reaffirming Texas football is becoming the IT program again, so watch out. And I think that feeling is what Longhorn fans feel now, that they haven't really been able to define the last 15 years because it just wasn't the case. We were hoping, is Texas back? I ain't heard any people talking about Texas being back anymore, right? But that was the hype during the down years for Texas in that 15-year stretch. And my wife, God bless her, we've been together now for like 13 years. And she kept saying to me that entire time, what the hell is the big deal about Texas football? Why is everybody so obsessed with this brand and football? It doesn't seem to me that it's that great. It doesn't seem that exhilarating. I should say, I don't get what the big deal is. And I was like, baby, I agree with you. I don't know what the big deal is right now because we're not winning games. She is just starting. Last season, she got a taste of it. She got a taste of it last season, and then she started to tell me, you know what, I do get it now. I think I am starting to figure out why everybody's so hype about the program, because when Texas is good, when the program is at a really playing at a really high level, when the brand is respected and feared as it should be, yeah, Texas becomes the IT university again, the IT program. And it feels like the athletic department overall is there, but the athletic department was waiting on Texas to get back, Texas football to be back. And now it does feel like there is no negative narrative about the program anymore. Right. We have to search for them and look for them. we were basically ensconced in them in the last 15 years. Texas can't play for championship. Texas can't develop talent. They underachieve as a program. They don't send guys to the NFL, blah, 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 on and on and on. And we'd have to address these narratives every damn offseason. Are they true? Are they false? Blah, blah, blah. Now, none of those narratives really exist. And it's all about, the direction and trajectory of the program and what's the ceiling for this program and brand. And I think that's part of why this spring the buzz seems so palpable, because we just haven't been here. I don't think we've been here in 20-some years. We may have never been here considering the new changing landscape of college sports.
That's what I think too. And Rod, if I wasn't ready before, I'm clearly ready to go run and pop my hamstring right now. CJ, last thing before we get out of here, last question we had from the board, because CJ's got to go cut a really cool video. Positions of need in the 2025 recruiting class. What you got? I'll chime in a little bit on that as well.
I think
let's start with the obvious D line. Okay, so now go.
Defensive line was going to be the obvious pick. I'm looking at linebacker as another one that you need to continue picking good solid pieces up immediately. Obviously, we know what Texas did in the 23 class with the tremendous linebacking class coming in. Only took one this past year with Ty Anthony Smith. That's going to be one. I think we can all agree that was by design coming in after that big class in 23. But now that you're in 25, it's a very talented in-state linebacking group. You need to find at least two, in my eyes, to get onto campus and continue the wealth of talent at each position. Linebacker's a spot I'm keeping a close eye on this year.
I've got two, and I'm going to go to offense. CJ covered defense. Obviously, defensive back's always a need, right? But sure. I'm going tight end. And I say that because I think I love Washington coming in. I think he's got a very bright future. I think Gunnar Helm goes to the NFL. Nye Black's probably here a year and goes to the NFL, right? So last year, after this last season, you lost Sanders. After the 24 season, you're losing both. Okay, so tight end's going to be a key position in recruiting and probably in the portal as well. I really like the freshman Washington from Langham Creek. I think once his body catches up to SEC, and I think it's going too quickly, by the way. I think a basketball guy transition to football, watch out for him to look totally different come August than what he did leaving Langham Creek High School. And then offensive line is one for me because Texas signed 3 last year, and they haven't lost a lineman, to Kyle Flood's credit, to the portal yet. He signed 12 guys in the first 2 classes and 3 in this class.
Incredible.
Eventually, somebody's going to leave. You can't keep 15 guys together that long. That's not college football, right? Somebody's going to leave. But coming off a 3-man class last year, and with guys like Kelvin Banks going pro early, who knows? I mean, Cam Williams, he could rise up draft boards. I think him and DJ Campbell need 2 years, but you just never know with the talent level Texas is bringing in now. But I think a healthy 5-man class is important. Because you will lose somebody to the portal. There's no doubt. And you're going to lose a left tackle early, and you got to continue to build that depth, especially in the SEC moving forward. So those are my 2 positions. All right, guys, anybody got anything in closing they got for us today? I think Rod's got us all fired up or ready to roll.
I'm ready.
I'm ready to get going.
Video with Bingle.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be a blast. I'll be able to tweet that up, put it on the website. You'll be sure to check it out tomorrow because it's, again, we're in that prime part of the offseason where it's all about hypotheticals and ratings and debates. So I'm looking forward to getting after it, putting on my Skip Bayless hat and getting to work.
And so baseball, opening day, opening weekend, big weekend for softball. Rodney Terry and Texas have the tallest task of all. They're in Houston to face the bullies and Hawthorne's Pavilion. So UH is going to play bully ball with Texas Saturday. They got to match physicality tomorrow at noon on CBS, which they did not do in Austin. And that's a tough team to match physicality with. But Texas has to match physicality tomorrow without getting into early foul trouble. Texas is 5-6 in Big 12 play. It's a rare year because of the strength of the Big 12. If they can get to 8-10, and I think they will, 8-10 in conference play, because they'll have a top 5-6 strength of schedule. They'll get in the NCAA tournament. Play through Asmus, play through Disu. Weaver, Disu stay out of early foul trouble, but match physicality without making dumb fouls tomorrow is a key. And by the way, I'd never bring up women's basketball very often, but Madison Booker's a star in the making at Texas. But I just want to give one shout out. Caitlin Clark breaking the women's scoring record. 3-footer off the dribble in the first quarter last night. The fact that she outscored Michigan 23-22 in the first quarter of that game was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, she's going to change women's basketball at the pro level. I think she is the female Steph Curry shooting the basketball. So congrats to her. That's good for college basketball as well.
Most college basketball fans, most sports fans can't name a big time men's college basketball star right now. Right. But they know who Caitlin Clark is.
Well, and she's had 2 games nationally televised on Fox 2 weeks in a row. We saw what Texas and Nebraska did in volleyball, the most watched volleyball game ever. Caitlin Clark's brought college basketball to Fox on Sundays.
Yeah, man. That's wild.
And Gus Johnson was so excited. He had one of the calls of the year. She got her blocked. Oh, sorry. Shot blocked. Gus was fired up that day. All right, Texas fans, everybody, thank you for joining in. You guys have a great weekend and hook 'em.
Y'all have a good one.